people as they speak. Hi, everyone. Kathy Vitale with Shelter Home Mortgage. We are the sponsor of this class, of course, and we have all of our Keller Williams alliances joining us in class, and we just appreciate all of you. We just want you to know that being partners with you is an amazing opportunity, and we truly appreciate it. On the call today, the first person I have, or the first office, is Chat North. We do not have Matt or Stanley on the call. There's a vacation going on for Matt, and Stanley's covering him, so they did not join us today, but we appreciate all the Chat North people here. You guys are awesome. First, for Keller Roswell, Alec, are you on the call and can you talk? Alec Jones, are you there?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yep.
Awesome. Good morning, everybody. Like Kathy said, it's Alec here at Keller Williams Roswell. Special hello to all the Keller Williams Roswell agents and everyone on the call. We're all really excited for this class, and just to round out this the third class with Jim, and I believe is it John speaking today. So we're really excited. Really grateful for all the Roswell agents, and just excited to learn from what John has for us today.
And next, Aaron DeGarmas in town. Are you on the call? There's Aaron, asked to unmute. So Aaron, are you there? Are you trying to unmute?
There we go. Thank you. Yeah, I couldn't unmute. Aaron DeArmas at the in-town office. Glad you all could be here. Super excited for this class. The last two have been great information for us as well. So thank you, DS Murphy, for coming back and doing a third one. And thank you, everyone, for attending.
Thanks, Aaron. And Faulkner, Metro Decatur, you online?
Can you say the name again, Kathy, so I can?
I got it. I'm here. Thank you.
Perfect.
For
Hey, Ann.
Hey, so shout out to all the Decatur peeps. We've got quite a few agents that are not here because they're going to the Braves game, but the folks that are here, we're happy to have you, and thank you for the third class that everybody's enjoyed the first two so much. We appreciate it, and I think that's it. Thanks.
Thanks, Ann. All right, next, North Atlanta, Jim Shue, are you there?
Good morning, Kathy. Good morning, our North Atlanta, Keller Williams, and all of our agents on this call. My partner in crime, Alicia Justice, and I are so proud to be part of this third event with DS Murphy. We know it is a bulk of your time out of the day, but this topic is so important and near and dear to our hearts. We hope that you've enjoyed the material. Today's class, I'm sure, is going to be out of sight. If there's anything that you guys ever need, all of your shelter partners are here to help and be of assistance of any type. Thanks, guys.
Alicia, are you on?
Yes, I am. Yes. Welcome, everybody from the North Atlanta office. Thank you for attending. It's going to be an awesome meeting, just like Jim said. A wealth of knowledge. And thank you, DS Murphy, for this third meeting as well, too. Looking forward to it, guys. And hey, enjoy. Thanks again.
Thanks, Alicia. And to tie it up, Tammy Mills, Midtown. Tammy Mills, are you there?
There I am. Hi, guys.
There you
Can
are.
everybody hear me? Couple big shout outs as well to all my beautiful Keller Williams Midtown folks. Woo woo. And also to my folks at Keller Williams Roswell, all those rockers out there. So excited to be able to attend this event. Big shout out to DS Murphy. I know you guys are going to have a lot of amazing content. And again, we appreciate each and every one of y'all. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Tammy. Hey, thanks, everyone. We're going to let John take this over. John Allred how many years in the business?
17.
Guy, you're a baby. You're a baby. Jim and I have you so beat. 17 years, that's nothing. You're
I have
a
seen a
young
lot, though. I have seen a lot in those 17 years. We've been up and down and back up, right?
Yeah, good job. And then Jim is here on the call, and he's the oldest one in the group today. He always is. And
Yes.
and been doing this what for 40 something years. So he'll be here to answer some of the chat. So if you guys have questions through it, feel free to chat out any questions, any thoughts, because John and the team will definitely take care of it. We want to make sure when you leave today, it's not only the CE class that you've gotten, you've learned more. All your questions are going to be answered. And even after the class, we're going to make sure you have the phone numbers. We're going to have cell numbers. So you're going to have some direct lines to these appraisers, which is just an amazing platform for y'all, as realtors. So there you go, John, run with it.
Well, thank you. We keep getting a lot of questions about the sign in. The sign in will be in just a few minutes. It'll be on the screen. So just hang tight for just a few minutes and we'll get to that. But thank you all for joining us. It appears I have huge shoes to fill following Jim and Kate. We'll see if we can get through this though. But my name is John Allred. I've been appraising 17 years from Warner Robins, Georgia, down in Middle Georgia. Moved up here in 2000, have a wife and 2 kids, and that's about the extent of it. Right now, I live in this office right here, 24/7, pretty much it feels like. I'm sure y'all feel the same way. But all my information is right there. So y'all can contact me later whenever y'all have questions. And like Kathy said, Jim Wainwright is on chat. He'll be answering all the chat questions. Well, a little about the firm. I know most of you guys have been in the prior classes. So, Scott Murphy, chairman of the real estate board, we have offices everywhere, and we have a ton of appraisers in Atlanta area that covers all of Metro, and we're moving south and we're moving north. So we have you covered wherever you are, pretty much in Georgia, North Carolina, California, Florida. And I think I have not attended the last classes, so I'm not really sure what all y'all went over, but I'm sure y'all went over the whole registered appraisers, licensed appraisers, certified appraisers, and all that. One thing I do want to point out for this class, because this is Appraiser's Guide to CMAs, and the big question for everybody is how to make adjustments, And we will get that question over and over and over today. And we will get into that. But I want to stress the years of experience it takes to become just a certified appraiser. It's 3 years experience, and it takes all of that full-time 3 years just to get comfortable making adjustments. We can give you guidelines to start you out and get comfortable, but it does take just remember, it takes a long time doing this full-time to get comfortable making the adjustments. But hopefully we can help you down the road and get you more comfortable populating your CMAs. Poll question. I want everybody to answer in the chat or with A, B, C, D, or E. Just a quick poll question, just to get you guys involved too, so I don't have to do everything. Where do you fall on the CMA experience spectrum? A is going to be I haven't developed a CMA yet, or I let the software develop my CMAs. And once again, you can just in the chat put A, B, C, D, or E. B, I have been developing my own CMAs for listings. C, I have a partnership with an appraiser and get a consultation appraisal for my listings. That's the one we want to see the most. Or after the class, we want to start seeing those C's. D, I think valuation pricing is completely subjective. And E, other. None of these apply to me. So, wow, we got people participating. Last class I did, nobody wanted to participate. A lot of A's, a lot of B's. So good. I'm glad y'all attended this class, and I'll get you started on the right foot, all you A people. And B people, we'll set you straight. So we're going to dig into this a little bit at a time, kind of get our toes wet here. What's your house really worth? That's the question we're all trying to answer. And that's the question the clients are expecting you to answer, your clients. And I think you've seen this slide, so I'm gonna go over it quickly, but this is your house. This is your client's house. This is how they see it. And of course, this is how the buyer sees it, valuation wise, a little bit smaller, a little less value. And then it's how the lender sees it, a little bit smaller, like, man, you paying that for that house? And then we come out, the appraisers come out, and it's even smaller, it's getting even smaller. But then guess who comes around the corner? Mr. Tax Assessor. And it's a mansion. It's a huge mansion. So the question is, how do we get the real value of these homes? And hopefully we can work through that today. Hopefully everybody can hear me okay. If you can't, put something in chat and I can make some corrections. A CMA, or a competitive market analysis, is an analysis generated to estimate the value range of the subject property in order to arrive at a reasonable list price. An appraisal is an unbiased estimate of market value based on 3 approaches to value. Key point here, it must be completed by a state licensed appraiser. There's a reason why we had to go through the classes and go through the two years of experience, 3 years of experience. Hopefully we get it right, hopefully. Agents are not allowed to complete appraisals of property to render an opinion of market value. However, in order to accurately list a home, an agent must have the necessary skills to develop a CMA in order to suggest a reasonable list price. The same holds true for an agent working for the buyers. So you're kind of caught in limbo here because you can't report opinion of market value, because then you'd be acting as an appraiser and going against your license. But your clients are expecting you to know the market and know how to correctly list their house and list it at the highest price and not leave anything on the table, but have it sell tomorrow. So that's the pickle you're in. But hopefully we can help you here. Producing a CMA is very, very similar to what we do producing an appraisal. It's the exact same steps. We just kind of dig in depth a little bit deeper when we're doing our appraisals. But they all start the same: research, field work, CMA, or appraisal analysis is the writing of the report. So your CMA you create for your client is pretty much equal to our appraisal we give to the banks or give to you for your client. But it always starts with research. The more knowledge you know about the market, the more knowledge you know about the submarkets, and everything else about that area, the better off you'll be. The field work comes into inspecting the subject property by visually and walking the house, walking the perimeter of the house, outside, inside, as well as knowing the development it's in. If it's in like a swim tennis development, knowing all the amenities that are available there, as well as the schools and shopping and work around the area. And then lastly, you'll complete the CMA. The key definitions: appraised value, the estimated fair market value of a property as developed by a licensed certified appraiser following accepted appraisal principles. And we keep stating this over and over and over because we don't want agents to get in trouble by stating appraised value or market value and down the road getting hit on their license, or because it could happen. It's rare, but it could. Market value, as defined by USPAP. USPAP, I think I heard Kate go over it one time with you guys, but USPAP is our ethics. It's our law. It's what we abide by. It's what keeps us all in a straight and narrow line. As subjective as the appraisal industry is, we still have to abide by USPAP and ethically conduct ourselves correctly. So USPAP is the Uniform Standards of Professional Appraisal Practice. And they define market value as a type of value stated as an opinion that presumes the transfer of a property, a right of ownership, or a bundle of such rights as of a certain date under specific conditions set forth in the definition of the term identified by the appraiser as applicable in an appraisal. Excuse me. As of a certain date, that's critical. Our effective date on appraisals, you probably know this, but our effective date is the date we actually saw the property. So if we saw a property 2 or 3 weeks ago and are just now working up the report for some reason because we're so slammed right now, and a new sale comes on or just closed after our effective date, we're not supposed to be able to use it, and we can't use it because our effective date was before the sale of that property. But we can do a drive-by and go back to the subject property and create a new effective date by doing a drive-by and seeing that the property is still there in the same condition, and then we change the effective date, and we can then value it as that date. And the reason I'm stressing that is we, in conducting rebuttals for some agents against other appraisers, we've had closings that happened on comparable properties that would have helped us out that closed after the effective date, and that appraiser stated, no, we can't use it because it closed after the effective date. Just keep in mind, they can use it if they want to go do a drive-by and create a new effective date. And that's what we did in these certain cases, and made the value better. But anyway, like I said earlier, any questions you might have, kick them up there for Jim Wainwright in chat, or if I can grab them. Let's see here.
Say that again. So Jim is sharing my audio with me because we're in the same office, and we don't want, all that pretty feedback. Because I know everybody loves feedback loops.
Yes.
But yes, he is there. And I have my microphone hot right now if you want him to speak.
Gotcha. No, we're good. We're good. I just want to say, if you have any questions, you can raise your hand and we can get to you, or you can put it in chat, and either I'll get to you in chat or Jim will get to you in chat. If you have any any questions throughout the class. Competency. I know I've heard Kate and Jim speak about this one, but competency is first of all, it's a hard word to say for me. Second of all, it is so important. I work Gwinnett County, Walton County. I work the east side of Atlanta. If I go to the west side, I have data that can make me competent, but I feel more comfortable on the east side. I've been hearing from a lot of agents that a lot of these low appraisals are coming from outside appraisers coming in. They're not competent. I've also heard some go as far as appraisers not having FMLS, only using Georgia MLS and working in downtown Atlanta. That's ludicrous. That's crazy. That's competency. Though competency goes beyond geographical experience, it is important to take this element into consideration. Where is the subject located? Which geographic elements are most important? I typically work out in the suburbs. So I strongly believe in the school systems. I think people buy in certain cities and certain locations and then look at the schools, and that's how they kind of pinpoint where they want to live. In the city, they do the same thing, but in the city's a little bit different animal. I think we all agree. Who must have geographical expertise? Anybody want to throw some answers up on the chat? Who in the industry, in the transaction, who needs to have geographical expertise? The agents, the appraisers, the loan officers, who needs to have them? The appraisers, realtors, appraisers, agents and appraisers. Everyone, that's the key. Everyone. And the more expertise geographical expertise we have in the transaction, the better we are. The better to help the seller, the better to help the buyer. And for the appraiser, the better to help the whole transaction. And that's why it is so important. And it's not to say that an outside appraiser coming in can't appraise. Like I couldn't go over to Marietta and appraise. I can, but if I feel like I'm not competent, what I am by law, what I have to do is contact one of my fellow appraisers on the west side. Say, hey, I'm over on the west side and I'm not really feeling comfortable. Can you give me some advice on the schools, or can I, get some help from you? So you can get expertise from outside sources. Zillow's Zestimate. It's always wrong. That's the best thing to say about Zillow. It's always wrong. I know, and I'm not going to go into great detail because I'm sure that they have. I keep saying that. I apologize. But Zillow's always wrong. It's a good starting point. I think it's a good place for people to start. But if the home sellers knew that, that'd be fine. Start there, but then get expertise from an appraiser or an agent or somebody in the market. But they don't. They rely on those estimates as the gospel, and that's what they think their house is worth. And then it's up to us to prove that it's not, pretty much. But just know it's probably one of their first, before they even contacted you to sell the house, it's probably they've already been on Zestimate. They have an idea in their head. So, if Zestimate is way up here and reality is down here, it makes it doubly hard for us and you to, convince them of that. Banks don't issue loans in accordance to the Zestimates. And also appraisals are proprietary, not public knowledge. Confidential information can only be shared with the client. That's also important, though, with our consultation appraisals. As y'all all know, we push the consultation appraisals hard. We think it's a great tool for agents before selling a home, before listing a home. And that's a question we always get from homeowners is, hey, if it comes in really high, is it going to go to the county for a county assessor? No. The appraisal, when we appraise a home for a consultation appraisal, it only goes to the homeowner or to the agent, whoever ordered it from us. It doesn't go even if the county called and asked us, we couldn't give them any information. So you can pass that along to the clients. Never reliable. Zillow is never reliable. And these are just stats on how they're 20, 30, 40% off majority of the time. Are they state certified on Zillow to give Zestimate? If not, why is it allowed? I don't know. That's a great question. Are they state certified on Zillow? They are not, and that's the problem. Zillow's biggest problem, and I'll go over this quickly. Zillow's biggest problem is the data driving Zillow. They're pulling their data from county assessors. And we all know that, and I'll go into it in more detail later, but we all know that county assessors' websites are notoriously wrong. So Zillow is only as good as the data that drives Zillow, which is horrible. So that makes Zillow horrible, especially in the Atlanta market where we have all of the basements, and some finished basements, some not. Some were permitted, so the county knows it, some are not. So that's the big force that drives Zillow, that just pushes Zillow over the edge of being so incorrect. So today in producing our CMA, I'll be honest, I've never created a CMA like you guys do. I've never used the software y'all use. I've never actually created a so-called CMA. But from teaching these classes, I think, like I said earlier, I think the research and all the work that we do to an appraisal is pretty much hand in hand with what you guys do. So if I misspeak about the software or anything like that, somebody let me know. But for today's case study, today's property we're working on, the house that we're trying to sell, the house that we're trying to get the listing for, is this property on the screen right now. That's going to be our subject property that we're going to work on throughout the day. So what style house is this? What somebody what in the chat, somebody put what style house is this right here? Traditional. I wish I could use traditional. Cape Cod. I don't see Georgian anywhere. Colonial. Yes. 2-story traditional. Traditional is what I would go with. Just so y'all know, if y'all noticed on appraisals, Fannie Mae back, I don't know, 5 years ago, whatever it was, stated that we could not use traditional. We had to use architectural architectural designs that are specific for each house, because we were just using traditional and everything. So this house would be colonial, 2-story. I would call it Georgian. That's my own little style I use for all 2 stories. Scott Murphy makes fun of me on that one. But this one would be colonial or traditional. As far as agents go, you call it traditional. And the reason I'm harping on this is it is extremely important, if this is your listing, to put colonial or traditional, not A-frame or not ranch, because some people in their criteria, they may put architectural style, 6 windows and a door, correct. And it throws off the criteria. But as you can see, I mean, the house is typical little suburban house, screen porch on the back. What other points on the back in the chat? Or you can raise your hand, we can unmute you. What other points do y'all see on this house that are key points that sellers might look for? Fire pit. Yeah, everybody's wanting fire pits. Front facing garage, correct. Would a front facing garage, would it add value or subtract value if you had 2 side by side? Correct. I would say so too. Enclosed porch. Man, you guys are looking at it. Fenced yard, curb appeal. Yeah, it's in pretty good shape. Whoever had the house has got it in pretty good shape and ready to sell. So we'll go into more details in a bit. Describe your subject neighborhood. This is another key point that I like to drive home. You have to put yourself in the shoes of the buyer, of the potential buyer. Each house we go into as appraisers, and hopefully each house you all go to in trying to get the listing or trying, in that scenario, you put yourself, you take your appraiser or your agent's hat off, and you put your buyer's hat on and act like you're going to buy that house. And you look at the points that you're looking for, or the typical buyer is going to look for. And that'll give you a better scenario on populating a correct CMA, or for me, an appraisal. I always put myself in the shoes of the potential buyer in that way, in that market. If I'm like this morning, I was down in Covington, and then I saw another house in Snellville. Those are 2 different markets, so I have to kind of in the back of my mind act like I'm a buyer in those 2 different markets when I'm in those houses, and I'm looking at key points that everybody's looking for. But you guys do the same with the CMAs. So, and also determine the most important features of the subject property, those which have the greatest impact on the value. On that house we were just looking at, it would be, like you guys said, it'd be the yard, the fence, the screen porch, the fire pit. Because the front of the house, although it's a nice house, I mean, it's pretty much just pretty much like all the rest of them, which isn't bad. But the key features appear to be in the backyard, more or less. Unfortunately, the one which is often closest to the top of the list is gross living area. That is a key feature. Everybody's wanting a certain, big house or a smaller house, so people are downsizing. And why that is unfortunate is because we all know tax records are so bad. It's so hard to find good data, reliable data on gross living area. But we will get into some details later, of course, on how to find the correct gross living area. County websites, either used by county use, FMLS area. These are different locations. The county, like I said, I was out in Social Circle, Covington area. I was in Newton County, so my area was Newton County. So if I'm trying to find comparables, I'm looking in Newton County. I'm not going into Walton or other counties. Some agents use FMLS numbers, the area numbers. I've never done that. There's nothing wrong with it. They're divided up by numbers for a good reason. That's a good way to pull your initial search. What I do most are the schools. I believe, like I said, I believe in the school systems. So in my initial search, I would look if my I live in the Brookwood cluster, so I always go to Brookwood and Snellville. That's what I teach, whatever. If I'm in that cluster, my initial search is going to be Brookwood High School, because that is a pretty big area. If I pull search of Brookwood High School, I'm probably pulling 1,500, 1,600 listings, pending sales within the last year. So it gives me a good idea of what that market is doing. And that's how you start your CMA. You want to know what the overall market is actually doing. So I do believe in the schools. Sub-market, you can go down to this. In the sub-market, you go down to the subdivisions, elementary schools, and then you can go even further into the style of the house. But all this will go into more detail as the day goes on. Describe your subject site improvements. Age. Typically in pulling a CMA, you want to stay within 5 to 10 years. If you're using age for a criteria to pull your CMA. The question we get, and I'm sure we'll get here in a second, is what if it's a rehab? What if it's a flip, a total flip? Built in the 40s, but it was just flipped last year. What year do you use? In that scenario, I would not put an age in the criteria. I would just pull an overall pull, and then as I'm starting to get a feel for the market, and then to get an actual value, I would use homes that are similar, that have been flipped, that have been totally gutted, rehabbed like the subject, but I may have to use some newer construction as well to show support for the newer designs and the newer elements of the home. But typically, like if you're out in the suburbs, 5 to 10 years is a good criteria to put in for pulling your CMA search. Lot size. Lot size is a lot of times that's key. Sometimes it really doesn't come into play, but a lot of times it's key. But you have to be careful on lot sizes because they're not always portrayed correctly in the county tax records. I'll say it over and over and over and over again. Any data source, any element of data that you use to come up with a value, to create a value, you want to double check, triple check to make sure it is accurate. Lot size is huge. It can be a huge adjustment. So if you're on a big lot, make sure it is correctly listed in tax records. And it'll come up in a second. Basements versus non-basements. If you're on a basement, you want to use basements for your comparables. If you're on a slab or a crawl, you want to use slab and crawls. Room count, bedroom count, bathroom count. I never use that for my search criteria because some agents may list this as a 4-bedroom, some may list it as a 3-bedroom, some may roll in from the basement, some may not. So I would never use room counts, bathroom counts as a criteria. Pool accessory units, if you're dealing with pool, that can be big in the criteria. Special circumstances, that's only if you're trying to put value, you're trying to value a home that is either been rehabbed or is an as-is sale. Then in special circumstances or in remarks in FMLS, you can put rehabbed or as is, and it'll pick up those type sales. But that is kind of how I start my search. It's important to know when you start your search that you don't want to put too much criteria in. You don't want to put gross living area because it's not always, but it's typically wrong. So you don't want to put the criteria for the gross living area. You don't want to use bedroom or bath count. kind of stay kind of vague on your initial pull to get your overall value for the market. We're going to go into this in more detail. Data sources that we use the same sources you guys use. Use Georgia MLS if we're below 20, and then First MLS above 20, and CompFlow. I think everybody's gone over CompFlow in their previous classes, but if not, CompFlow is a great source. It is the old red link that we used to use back a long time ago. And Shane Moxley, old appraiser, created CompFlow, and it's appraiser's data. So if you do not have access to CompFlow, we can Maple can help us out, and we can get you access, or we can get our brokerage access to CompFlow, and we can do a class teaching you how to use CompFlow. What CompFlow does, it's appraiser's data. It's an appraiser's data source that we input all of our data from our appraisers into that website, and it creates a data source, an accurate data source that we can work off of. It's really good for gross living area. It's really good for basements, that type scenario. How much would a small lake add to value of a home, generally speaking? I'm talking about a small neighborhood lake that the house is located on and shares the lake with other neighbors on the lake. That comes, I'm going to point this out really quick. The lake question, what you would do if your subject property, your house that you're going to value is on the neighborhood lake. I adjust by percentages. So I would go back a year, maybe even 2 years, to find homes on that same lake that have sold, and then find homes that are off the lake that sold in the same time period that are similar, and see what the percentage, see what the difference in percentage is. Then you can apply that percentage to the homes that you're using as comparables that are not on the lake. That's the easiest way to get a value off a lake. And sorry about the CompFlow. I didn't mean to give you access, but we can go over how to get access. I misspoke there. I apologize. That's for CompFlow. This is the comparable search that we were just talking about. Once again, is don't limit yourself too much in criteria. The more you put in the criteria, the more you're going to miss. And just talking about architectural style, if you put in colonial and the house next door that's the perfect comp, if they put in traditional, it's not going to pick it up. Or if you have a 3-bedroom house with a bonus room, but you're calling it a 3 with a bonus, the house next door, it has the exact same setup, but they're calling it a 4th bedroom, you're not going to pick it up. So that's what I was saying earlier. Is I put in the least amount of criteria as I can. When I start my initial search, and I'm going to go back to Brookwood, I'll put Brookwood High School in, and I will put the subject address in the map bar and do like a 3-mile search, because that'll be within the Brookwood cluster. If I'm on a slab or a crawl space, I'll hit the criteria for slab and crawl space. So I'm kicking out all my basements. If I'm on a basement, I'll hit slab and crawl space and hit not. So it kicks out all the slab and crawl spaces and only picks up the basements. So at that point, in your criteria, all you have is a 3-mile radius, high school, and then crawl or basement or slab, whichever one you're dealing with. You haven't put anything in gross living area. You haven't put anything in bedrooms. You haven't done anything like that. The only other criteria I'll use in this initial pull is new construction or resale, because there's a lot of new construction on the market right now. I will hit all the new. I think there's 3. There's new construction coming soon or whatever. There's like 3 that deal with new construction. I'll hit if I'm looking for new construction, or if I'm not looking for new construction, I'll hit those and then select the not button, so it will not pick up those new construction. And that's all the criteria I use to pull my initial comparables, to pull my my initial search. Because in pulling comparables and creating your CMA, I like to look at it as a funnel. and your first pull, that first pull, you might have 500 hits, 500 pieces of property. That's way too much to try to value. So you're at the top of your funnel. So what you want to do is work down that funnel to end up at the bottom with the end product, your final list price. So that initial search is very, very limited criteria. That way you're picking up everything. It says, since we cannot search by square footage, you may want to choose a larger number of potential comparables. The goal is to end up with 5 to 7 good comparables. That may take 10 to 15 sales. My initial search that I'm going over right now, you may have 300, 500. And then what I do then is I analyze that market over the past year to see what the trends are. Hopefully in the past few months, past year, it's going to be trending up. You can actually pull reports from FMLS from that criteria, and it'll tell you the trends. It'll tell you the percentage of increase. It'll tell you everything you want to know that you can then relate to your clients about what has happened in that potential market within the past year. So after I pull that search and get all my data I want out of it, then I go down to a 1 mile radius. The 1 mile radius, I do want to point out, is not you can go over a mile. That's just an old myth that you can't go outside of a mile. People don't buy houses that way. People don't sell houses that way, and it's okay to go over a mile if you're looking for certain criteria or certain aspects, and we'll go into more detail. We also want to look closely at similar active listings and pending listings. These will help you determine what the property is not worth. Active listings that have been on the market for a while, as we all know, everything is selling quickly right now. So if it's been on the market for a good while, it's going to tell you what the house is not worth. Pending listings are good to tell us current value. We can call agents and get all the information we can from the agents to try to find out if that pending is going to close, or if it's going to close near the list price, because that is the best indicator of current value. Here's an example of architectural style where someone did it wrong, incorrectly. This is traditional home, and they have A-frame. So if that was your home next door and you needed that comp and you put traditional, it wouldn't pick it up because someone put the data incorrectly. So we harp on that. We in these classes, we try to drive home when you're entering your data for your listings. It is so important to make sure it is done. It's all inputted correctly, because it could throw off, it could skew the numbers. Not gonna mess with that. This is a great example of why we say drive your comparables. When you get down to your 5 to 7, which we're still working toward, we always say drive your comparables. And like, well, you got pictures in FMLS, why you need to drive your comparables? Well, photos can be deceiving, because if you look in these photos, in reality, you got a water tower back here on this one, and you got a water tower on the back one. For some reason, when they took the picture of the house, they forgot to take the picture of the water tower. That's why it's extremely important to drive your comparables before you put a value on them. There's a reason why that comparable sold lower than the rest, or and that could be the reason. Lot sizes, shape, and influences. These are comparables, or these are lots just indicating lots that are in cul-de-sacs, small front yards, big backyards. Actually, my personal property is like this. I love it. Some people don't, but located in the cul-de-sac, would that add value, or would that in a cul-de-sac, would it add value, subtract value? What do you think? Add value, add value, add value. Correctly. That's why I bought my house. My kids can play in the cul-de-sac. I don't have to worry about it. They can play even when they were younger. So cul-de-sac definitely adds value. The left image there with the red line, I'm sure some of you guys know this, but if you didn't, that's a tool that you can use or that's in Realist, but on the right, the image on the right is the tool that you can use in the tax assessor's websites when you use the ruler. In the toolbar on the top, there's a yellow ruler you can use, and you can outline the property to verify the acreage. It may not be exact, but this goes back to what we were speaking of earlier. When you need to verify the acreage, you can use this tool right here. If your client, the homeowner, is telling you, oh, it's 1.5 acres, and you're looking at everything and it's like 0.7, or this has 0.9, this, and it's all over the place, you can use this tool in the tax assessor's website to verify who is correct. And if it's still up in the air, I would recommend getting a survey of the property before putting value on it, before listing it. School districts seem more accurate since mileage can put you in a very different school. Correct. 100% correct. Brookwood's a great example, because in Brookwood we have Parkview, which is another good school, South Gwinnett, Central, all these feed in around it, and they're all different markets, and they're all different. You can jump over in a mile and be in 2 different school systems, and they're totally different markets. Little yellow ruler. This is the little yellow ruler we were talking about in tax assessor's website right there. So that's the tool you can use to outline the property to verify. Bedrooms. Key definitions of bedrooms. I think y'all have gone over this before, but I'm gonna do it again, because I have a little different spill on it. A room of adequate size, generally 100 square feet, and it must have. What should it have? Closet. Somebody's put closet. What else? What else does it have to have? Window, window, window. I don't believe in the closet. Scott believes in the closet. Everyone, I'm sure Jim believes in the closet. I don't believe in a closet, because I know we have IKEA that you can go buy a cabinet for $50 and screw it to the wall and have a closet. No, the critical point to a bedroom is the window, the door. It's got to be big enough to be usable. Oh, didn't mean to do that. Heated and cooled like the rest of the house. The key thing that a lot of people forget about, and the best example of this, is bonus room, like a house on a slab with a bonus room over the garage. And they worked hard to finish it out and to put a closet in it, but there's no bathroom. So that person has to walk downstairs through usually the kitchen or the family room to the bathroom to take a shower. In that case, it is not a bedroom, it's a bonus room. But the key point that we try to drive home to everybody is it's not going to deter from the value, because you're already dealing with a 3 or 4 bedroom house. That 5th bedroom or that 4th bedroom, you're going to pick up the square footage anyway, and you're going to call it a bonus room. So it's not going to really do anything with the value in our regards. But in saying that, appraisers look at it different than agents do. So if you're going to list a house and all the other homes that are similar in that development, if you're going to list a house that has a bonus room, has a closet, doesn't have a bathroom, everybody else has similar houses and they're calling it a 4th bedroom, you call yours a 4th bedroom too. As an appraiser, I'm going to call it a 3rd bedroom. I'm going to call it a bonus room. Don't shoot yourself in the foot just because the appraiser said, no, it's not a bedroom. If everybody else is listing it as a bedroom and calling it a 4th bedroom, call yours a 4th bedroom too. So you won't miss that listing. Does your definition of usable mean the room has to be big enough for a bed? I'm dealing with it now with the buyers where it's a 3rd bedroom, can be used as such. I think it's 100 square feet is the guideline for it, but yes, you have to have a bed in it and a dresser. The key thing are the windows. And there's a certain size of windows that's actually code for firefighters to be able to get in, and it's got to be a certain 9 by 9. Thank you, Jim. I like you there. I don't like you typically, but I like you today. I'm kidding. But anyway, 9 by 9 is what Jim is putting. But like I said, if it's a bonus room for an appraiser, you might call it a bedroom, and that is totally fine. Is that a bedroom? In the chat. Yes, no, bonus room. Well, it's in a basement. The way the window is, I should have preferenced this, I guess. It's in a basement. I'm not going to call it a bedroom because the window is so high, it doesn't have adequate access for egress for a fire, for emergency egress. Is that a bedroom? Is that a bedroom? Yeah, that's a garage. Is that a bedroom? I would probably like this. Looks like a bedroom. Like somebody blew out an indicator, blew out the attic space, and made a bedroom. I'd call that a bedroom if there was if there was room for a bath. If there was a bath up there as well. If there wasn't a bath up there, I would just call it a loft or a bonus room. Correct. Is there a bath on that level? That's exactly what you have to ask yourself. Would photo 1 be considered a bonus room? Photo 1. I'm assuming there's a doorway at the bottom of the steps. If there's not, that could be an issue. If there's a doorway at the bottom of the steps, or I would call it bedroom. Gross living area. GLA, as defined by HUD, the Department of Housing and Urban Development, is the total area of finished above grade residential space. It is calculated by measuring the outside perimeter of the structure and includes only finished habitable above grade living space. Note, Fannie Mae considers a level to be below grade if any portion of it is below grade, regardless of the quality of its finish or the window area of any room. All measurements are based on the American National Standards, ANSI measuring standards. This is the whole basement issue. Why do I'll get that question down on question in a second. This is the whole basement issue. ANSI standards state that if any part of the house, you just say a typical split foyer. Actually, we're going to have a picture of it. Oh no, it's right there. I'm going to jump to this one first. This is the best example of basement versus non-basement. They're both split foyers. So the house on the left, we're about to take a break. The house on the left, the first level is a basement. So, and the reason why that is, it has nothing to do with the door. It has to do with the grade here. And what it is on the left side, the dirt is below the slab. That's okay. It's this right side over here where the grade is up 3-4 feet up the wall. And remember the definition said, if any portion of that level is below grade, it is considered basement. So that right there is what makes this section of this split foyer basement, where this is a one-story house. It's a split foyer, but it's a one-story on a basement, a finished basement, assuming it's finished. Now this house, even if it was the exact same floor plan, exact same model, this house, it all has to do with the grade of the land, with it being flat and with no dirt being above the actual slab of the home. This is a two-story split foyer. And that is the best example to me. That's the best example of why it is a basement, a below grade or above grade. And on the grid, just so y'all know, on the actual appraisal form, the gross living area line, that's all the above grade portion. And this section, and this one is this section right here. That is that's all the above grade portion. And this line right here, that's where we report the below grade, the basement portion. That's how we split it up. So we'll take it. Let me look at look at that. Uh-oh, didn't mean to do that. Let me get the questions real quick, then we'll take a break. Terrace level or basement. So what is considered grade? Grade is the land. I'm sorry. I always just assume everybody knows. I apologize. Grade is the way the land rolls, the way the contour of the land is, the dirt. Why do appraisers not include the ground floor of a 3-level townhome when all floors are above grade on a slab? I do, and they should. I do run across that. I know exactly what you're talking about. I don't know why people do it. And I've addressed some appraisers in that, because one of my rebuttals I was doing, that's what the appraiser did. And his comment to me was, that's how tax records have it. That has nothing to do with it. If it's above grade, if that third floor, that first floor of a 3-story townhome is above grade, every bit of it, even if the door's up here and you go down to that first floor, if it's all above grade, it's above grade. It's all above grade GLA. But I do know some appraisers they treat it as basement. I can't answer the question why. I do not do it that way. Hopefully none of the DS Murphy appraisers do. Adequate heating and cooling, that is correct. If to be considered a finished basement, it's got to have adequate heating and cooling, and that's for the bedroom too, I think. Did you win the rebuttal? Yes. On the second house, it's not considered a basement. Second house, no. The right side, the left house is a basement. The right house is not a basement. And even if you have to walk up steps inside the interior, correct. If the portion of the basement which is below grade is unfinished, but all of the finished rooms are above grade, can the finished rooms be included in the GLA? If the portion of the basement which is below grade is unfinished, but all the finished rooms. No, it has to do, that's a great question from Connie. If the portion of the basement which is below grade is unfinished, but all the finished rooms are in the portion of the basement that it's actually above grade, so like a daylight basement, is that considered GLA? No. You have to you're dealing with the whole level as an entire whole. That'd be considered finished basement. Why builder square foot is almost always less than appraisal square foot? Builder square foot, they're working off of architectural plans. Architects calculate their square footage from interior dimensions. And by definition, we measure exterior dimensions. So you're adding 6 inches to both sides. So you're adding a foot across. So you're picking up gross living area that way. Is that right? Let's take a break, and everybody take a 10-minute break.
Give me one
come
second,
back.
John.
Go ahead.
I'm just grabbing the rest of the snapshot. So I'm on page 5 of 6. So don't turn your camera off for just about 60 more seconds.
Oh, okay. I apologize. I'll keep answering questions. If the house on the right slopes from back to front, is it below grade from back to front? Yes, the house on the right, I'm assuming the backyard is level like the front yard is. If it's not, if the backyard is above grade, then it would be considered basement. Terra versus basement, which is different. I call it basement. I'll be honest, the only time I see terrace level is that if I'm dealing with higher end clients. If I'm dealing with higher end homes, and they call them terrace levels. I just always call them basements. But I would think a terrace level would be more quality built, I guess you could say.
All right, I'm all set. You can break now.
Oh, okay. Y'all can take it. Let's take a 10-minute break. So we'll come back at 12:15 and continue. So I'm going to hit mute and stop my camera for a second. I'm actually back. If anyone has any questions, I'll address the chat questions whenever one returns. How do you determine the square foot percentage for below grade level?
John,
Yes.
will our next break be around 1?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Great job, by the way.
Oh, well, thank you.
So you didn't beat Jim's numbers though.
Oh, what did Jim have?
He had over, I think it was 143. We'll have to ask Maple.
Well,
Yeah.
see, that's the problem there, because everyone thought he was teaching a class. It was advertised as Jim's teaching. It wasn't advertised.
Well, I know. See, that's the problem though. I thought about that after I said it. It actually was Jim that they had to come back and see, they thought. So we'll have to give you another chance and have you advertise.
There you go. There you go. I like these questions that are popping up here, though. Great questions, and I would address them now, but I'd rather just wait. At 12:15, I'll address the questions. They eat their sheep and drink single malt. I like that. Man, we got a lot of good questions. All right, let's get rolling. Our next break will be at 1 o'clock. So y'all get to stare at my shiny forehead for another 45 minutes. And I want to answer a few of these questions. Well, let me get back to this. Let me get back to this. What's the trivia question? According to legend in Scotland, what do some homeowners do to their homes when they pay off their mortgage? They eat their sheep and drink single malt. That's what they do. They paint the door red. Red door, red door. Few of these questions. See if I can remember. How is 1 square foot of below grade value compared to 1 square foot of above grade? Depends on the finishes. If it's there's times on split foyers, like the one we were showing earlier, that the bottom level, even though we're calling it basement, is finished out exactly like the upstairs. I mean, it was done the same time by the same builder, everything else. There's times I'll adjust those basements equal to the gross living area. So if I'm adjusting $30, $40 a square foot, whatever, for gross living area above grade, I'll adjust that level, if not the same, very similar, because the quality of how it was built out. If it's not built as quality, if it's a typical basement drop ceiling, finished but minimal finished, if I'm adjusting $30 a square foot for above grade, I might adjust. We break it up in two different portions. We break it up in entire basement area adjustment, and that would be for this scenario, it'd be $5 for the entire basement. And then the portion that is finished, I would probably adjust at, say, $10 a square foot. So in essence, when you double dip, because you're doing the whole basement at $5 a square foot, and then the finished area at, say, $10 a square foot, you're actually adjusting that finished area at $15 a square foot. Whereas upstairs, you're doing $30 a square foot. And that's for a basement. That's just like a typical basement drop ceiling, minimally finished out. Hopefully that'll help. There's some more terrace level. The number of bedrooms listed include bedrooms. Can number of bedrooms listed include bedrooms that are below grade? Great question. And if it's already answered, somebody jump in and tell me it's already answered, because I don't know if Jim may have answered some of these. For agents, yes, include them, because all the other agents do as well. It's same as the bonus room deal. Kind of do what everybody else is doing in the market, because you don't want to say, I took a class with John and he said no, it's below grade and it's not considered a bedroom, so we're not going to count it. But all your fellow agents, your competition is counting it as a 5-bedroom home, because two bedrooms in the basement, and you're counting it as a 3-bedroom home, and you shot yourself in the foot. So for you guys, count the bedrooms in the basement if they have adequate egress, they have the windows, and they're heated and cooled, and they have adequate room. But just know, as appraisers, and if you could help us out with your clients and tell them, as appraisers, we cannot consider those bedrooms. We'll mark them as bedrooms in the grid, and we can adjust for them. But on the first page of the appraisal, it's going to have only the bedrooms and baths that are above grade. The below grade bedrooms and baths will be a different portion of the appraisal. How do you determine the square foot percentage of below level? When we're measuring the house, that's how we come up with the square footage of the basement. And if half of it's finished, it's 50% finished. If not, if it's a small little section finished, say 30 square feet is finished, or is finished and the rest is unfinished, we divide 30 square feet by the total square footage to come up with the percentage. That's how we say 15% is finished, or 10% is finished, or 60, or whatever it is. How do you compare a subdivision where all 22 are custom built homes and only 2 homes have sold in the past 2 years? I would love to, that's a more detailed question. Shoot me an email and I can, 22 homes are custom built and only 2 homes have sold in the past 2 years. In essence, you would go out and find other custom built homes in the same market area, say the same schools or the same, or whatever, and same similar quality of build is what you would do. But to be honest, in those scenarios, when you're trying to put value on a home like that, you do a consultation appraisal, and then we come out and do it for you. So that's the easiest way out. I've been looking at investments. I don't know what the thing about Gwinnett was. Why are listing agents changing the list price unless it goes under contract? Why are listing agents changing the list price in FMLS after it goes under contract? Does that have any effect? I didn't notice. I haven't noticed that. If they have, I have 2 rooms in the basement. I have 2 rooms in the basement with no windows, but they are exiting the very large room with a big window and door. Can I consider any of those bedrooms? I would not consider those bedrooms. I would not consider any room a bedroom if it did not have windows, as per that definition we were looking at. There's all my information again. All right, let's dive into the subject property. This is the same subject property we were looking at earlier. Kind of basic on the front, but well kept home is what I'm seeing. And then the backyard, we have the screen porch, the fire pit, and everything else we went over. We're going to call it a colonial 2-story home. Exterior finish is siding. As appraisers, I just say siding. I don't say hardy plank or cement siding. I don't say vinyl. I just say siding. I try to stay as vague as possible. Slab, there's no basement or crawl space. It's on a slab. With that said, if I was pulling comparables, I wouldn't kick out crawl spaces. I would pull anything that didn't have a basement. Decks, screen porch, backyard space is what we pointed out already. A 2-car attached garage, front loading garage. Tennis pool. It is in a tennis pool community. Annual fee management company. That is critical too. The HOA. If your subject property is in a HOA and try to pull, if you're having to pull comparables outside that community, try to pull communities that are similar, that have similar dues, that have similar amenities. That can play a big role to the buyers. We're going to go over the subject property interior photos. This property appears it has been updated. This is just to get us all on the same page. So when we start kind of doing adjustments and stuff. Top picture, the family room and the kitchen, and you can see the dining room. What are y'all seeing in these pictures? Has it been updated? Has it been, you think it'll sell well, or what would be your first takes on this house as you walked into it? Very nice. Updated, open. Gray. It's gray like every other house we go in, right? I wonder what the next color will be. Wood floors, correct. Updated. Yeah, it is not new construction. It's an updated home. It's a older construction that has been well maintained and well updated. Like everyone's saying, you see the hardwood floors, the tile floor in the kitchen, the granite, the stainless appliances. Look like original cabinets, but painted white, so more appealing. So definitely when we're pulling comparables, we don't want to pull similar age homes that have not been updated. Looking at the bedrooms and baths, what do y'all see? Correct. Very open, very bright, wood floors, updated. Everything is looking really tight. Really, this would be a good house to list. It would sell pretty quickly, I would think. And I agree with the 1 bath update, 1 not. The top left photo appears to be, it doesn't really appear to be builder grade, but it doesn't look as new. I don't know, could be wrong. There isn't carpet. Oh, went the wrong way. More photos. What are you thinking there? Love the patio. Yep. Master bath needs to be updated. I agree. It's like they did everything but those 2 baths. But the reason I'm kind of sticking on this is these are the points when you're pulling your CMA, when you're taking that, say 100 hits of data of comparables that we're still, remember, we're looking at that funnel right now. We're about halfway down and we're trying to get to the bottom of that funnel. So we want to start narrowing that funnel, that our data pool down a little bit smaller, so we can start looking at stuff. So we know we want to look at an updated house. We know we don't want any, we don't want to see any as-is sales, or we don't want anything that needs updating. I'm a visual person, so once I narrow my searches down to say 30, 40, 50, I go through and look at photos, at least at the front of the houses. The front of the house, usually you can tell if it's been updated or not. And then you can dive deeper and read the remarks. But definitely in trying to narrow the search down, now we can go a little bit deeper. Field work. Drive through the neighborhood and familiarize yourself with important features, parks, schools, commercial. Inspect the subject property. Make notes of improvements. Measure the property. You guys all measure property, right? Y'all take measurements and do all that stuff. No comment, crickets. Y'all were not taught to do that. It's fine. It takes a long time. Actually, in teaching, I teach a lot of appraisers. That is one of the hardest things to teach, other than making adjustments. That is the second hardest thing to teach. A spatial recognition and trying to measure a house. It's really hard. Takes years and years of experience. Drive by your comparables and make notes. So this is what we kind of went over earlier as far as driving, and we gave the photos of the water tower and stuff like that. It is very important to drive by your comparables. I'm a builder's son. I keep a 30-foot tape in my car. So I'm going back to our search, like we're gonna do it. Like I'm kind of acting like we're doing a CMA together. So right now we had our criteria of our high school. We just put 1 mile in. We put slab crawl. We put no new construction, and we're sitting at we're gonna say 75 hits. When I say 75 hits, I mean 75 listings, sales, pendings, everything within the last year. So that's still too many to weed through and to drive through. We don't, we're not expected to drive and look at every one of those properties. You want to drive and look at your last 5 to 10, maybe 5 properties. But inspecting the property is critical on talking about your listing property, your potential listing. You definitely want to walk through, and as we just did with those photos, note everything that's been updated, get a list from the client of everything that's been done. You don't necessarily need receipts, but times it was done, time frames and stuff like that. That way you can weed out your comparables. Take notes of your improvements, measure the property. Nope, you call us. We'll come measure your property. On another note, we would love to do the consultation appraisal, but this house probably would not need a consultation appraisal. It's a pretty basic house, other than the updating, which I'm sure you can find plenty of comparables that are updated similar. But if you think tax records are off and you want to know the actual square footage, we will come out and measure the house and do nothing else. We'll just come out and measure and give you a sketch of the house. And for that house, it would be $150. We get calls on that all the time, actually. The comparables, drive back comparables. Looks can be deceiving. Looks like a typical house. I mean, it looks like it's been updated. Then you look next door and people are dying to get in there. So there's a graveyard there. So we try to drive home, drive your comparables. Same thing with this one. You got power lines in the backyard. The FMLS picture doesn't show them, but then you drive it and it does. So those would make horrible comparables. Do your research. There's another one. There's power lines. Something else to look at. This picture here, this photo here. You might say, oh my, it's on an acre and a half or whatever. It may be listed acre and a half, and you might talk about the comparables. But if majority of that land is under floodplain, there's no contributory value. It's very minimal. So even if it's on an acre and a half, you're not adding 50 grand to that acre, that acre that's in floodplain.
John,
yeah.
Are you going to talk about a flag lot?
Yeah, I can. Yes. Is there a photo of it in here?
A photo of what?
Was there a photo of a flag lot? A flag shaped lot. I couldn't remember if there was a photo in here of a flag shaped lot. A flag shaped lot. I see that a lot out in Dillon, Walton County, Coweta County, stuff like that. Or I mean Newton County. It's where people divided up large parcels, but then they just have a little bit of easement, like a 20-foot easement for a driveway to go back to get to the house. Would that subtract value? I mean, is that something when you're finding comparables, would you try to find another comparable similar to it? We do not have an image of that glass. Which glass? I think it does impact value. You don't have your street frontage. You're relying on all you have in a flag shaped lot, like I'm referring to. All you have is driveway access. And sometimes it could be hundreds of feet to your open land. Some people might like it because you're in the back and you're secluded. But I think it definitely would impact value. If you're trying to compare it to another lot that is a more traditional style lot. So if you're dealing with a property like that, it's very critical to find at least one comparable that's similar, that you can base your value off of that, to see if the market is paying less for that or paying more for it or whatever. Anytime you have something that's special like that, you need to find a comparable that brackets that amenity. And bracketing is another critical point to a great CMA and a great appraisal. And bracketing just means if you're dealing with a house that's, I think we've gone over it in other classes, but just in case, if you're dealing with a house that's 4,000 square feet, you want sales that are under 4,000 and sales that are above 4,000, and you want to bracket, and that's the essence of bracketing. So in a flag shaped lot scenario, you would want at least one or two other comparables that are similar, either flag shape or something different with the lot. Flag, what's it called? Anyway, flag shaped lot. Sorry about that. I apologize. I got thrown off there. Factors that affect value: consistency, condition and appeal, flag shaped. Condition and appeal: quality, construction and layout, location, proximity to commercial, supply and demand. Consistency is key. If you have the biggest house in the neighborhood is not always the most highest price house. Consistency needs to appeal to the rest of the market. And I know we've gone over this, but condition and appeal, that's how the house has been kept up, the condition of the house. The house we're dealing with, it's been kept up pretty well. The quality deals with the actual structure, the building, how the house was built, the materials used, the quality of craftsmanship that went into the construction of the house. Construction and layout would be walking of the house. Is it an open house? Is it got a galley kitchen or stuff like that? Location. We all know that is key. Proximity to commercial, supply and demand. Right now, we got a very low supply and very high demand, which is driving up prices. Other factors that affect value: physical wear and tear on the improvements, deferred maintenance. The top house, what would be a great value on that house? Sad no. That's a tear down to me. That would just be a tear down. Physical, I mean, it's not worth rebuilding. External, that's a great example of physical wear and tear. External, exterior influences on the site, traffic, commercial, or industrial airport. If you were dealing with the middle photo with the airplane, a direct flight path over the house, would that be difficult to put a value on? Actually, it probably wouldn't, because hopefully your comparables that are close enough in that community that they're going to have the same noise. They're going to have the exact same noise, the same flight path over it. So it probably wouldn't be as difficult as you would think. Now, if there were no cells around there, it would be difficult. It would be. You at that point, you would have to find other comparables that, even if it's in a different market, that have that type of influence of airplanes flying over the top of. Functional or over improvement, poor design, or flow. The bottom house, it looked like it was just added on, and looked like there was a walkway to what was the front door at one time and not. To me, the curb appeal would kill that house. That would be a difficult to value. Difficult to try to find comparables for that one. How do power lines impact value? Sometimes they don't at all. Meaning some people like the privacy in the backyard. I've got several friends that they use the power line for their little party areas or whatever, you know, their fire pits and all that. The way to find out if power lines or the gas line or whatever impacts value is if your client's house is located on that power line, is you have to find another home, similar home that's on that power line and when it's off. And once again, you do percentages. You find out the percentage difference in those two cells, and that's how you can dictate what the adjustment needs to be. Other factors that affect value are lake properties. Saw this back in the drought. Anytime I'm dealing with a lake property, I don't care what lake it is, I go into Google Earth Pro, the downloaded version. I don't think you can do it just Google Earth, but you can do it in Google Earth Pro that you download to your computer, and you can go back in time. So anytime I'm dealing with a lake property and in the comments it says deep water, always in water, I go back in time through the droughts to see if it was sitting in deep water or not. And when I get down to my core comparables that I'm going to create my value with, I go back in time on every one of those docks to make sure they're either in deep water, or if the comparable was not in deep water, make sure my comparables are in similar situations. So either you don't undervalue or overvalue a lake property. And to me, that's the only way you can protect yourself when dealing with lake properties. Can you explain the significance of an FHA appraisal? Is it true once an FHA appraisal has been done, it runs with the property and not the borrower? If so, what is the time period? I do believe the time period is 6 months.
It is 6 months and it sticks with the property.
Sticks with the property. And that hurts when you get a low appraisal, and it's now, you know, we get rebuttals all the time, and the appraisal was wrong. I mean, just plain out wrong. And it sticks with the property. It hurts.
The new lender, though, on the next loan, their underwriter can, with comments from the listing and buyer's agent, they can ask for reconsideration of value.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like that. That's great. That's great information. Are FHA appraisals typically lower? No, I get that question all the time. And there's two questions I get all the time. FHA appraisals lower, and I've heard that some banks tell appraisers to undervalue the homes and to not make values of the loan or whatever. I've never heard, I think both of those are myths. And when I appraise a home, an FHA or a conventional, the only difference is FHA, I have to perform a better inspection. I have to go up in the attic and the crawl space and run all the appliances and that type of stuff, more like a home inspection. But when it comes to the actual value of the home, there's no difference in the scenario of FHA or conventional. Can't speak of VA, I've never messed with VA. How much value do you subtract a house on a main busy road? It's the same scenario. You have to find another house on a busy road. It doesn't have to be the same busy road, but it needs to be another busy road, and you find the difference and you adjust with percentages. Are appraisers motivated to appraise the home at the purchase price, or is it totally subjective? Nailing me down on this one. Are appraisals motivated to appraise the home at the purchase price, or is it totally subjective? It's totally subjective. And here's the way we look at it at DS Murphy, okay, is if we have a contract on the house, especially in these times, it's very tough. Have a contract on the house, we have a buyer that's willing to pay for it. Now that buyer is not bringing cash. So it's not saying that is the value, because they're not bringing cash to the table, or they're not bringing that 300 grand. They're borrowing it from the bank. So that's not saying that is the market value, but that is saying that people are willing to pay for it, and we're going to do our best to push value to that point. Now, if it's over, if you're getting a good deal on a house, just say the contract's 280 and all the comps are coming in at 300, I might come down lower, closer to that contract price, because it is very subjective. Our whole industry is subjective. I will come down a little bit lower just so we don't raise red flags in underwriting and through the whole loan process. Because if we come in higher, sometimes the question is there something wrong with the house? Why is it selling so much less than market value? So there is a little wiggle room there. So measuring a house, this is just how we measure houses. We measure, like we said, exterior only, exterior, and then we just walk around and take our measurements. The key point is we take out the garages. They do not count. Upstairs, we measure, even if we're measuring inside, we add that extra half foot to all the exterior walls. So 0.5 inches to every exterior wall to get those exterior dimensions. And that's where the difference between architectural drawings and appraiser sketches are a little different. How do you determine value on an all cash purchase? We do a lot of appraisals for cash deals, and we look at market value. We pull comps just like everything else. And there's some, sometimes we come in low and sometimes we come in higher. Just because somebody's willing, to pay that price, that doesn't mean it's still market value. That's going to drive the market up, but it's hard to say that would be market value if all the comparables is there, if everything you're seeing is under that value. Another key point about sketching and measuring, since I know you guys all measure your houses, when you're upstairs, 2-story foyers or 2-story family rooms do not count. You subtract those areas. You do keep the steps, but all other areas in 2-story foyers, 2-story family rooms get extracted out. Why measure? Tax assessors in different jurisdictions use different standards square footage information. Some include all area under roofs, which means that a screen porch may be included. If an addition was not permitted, the new square footage may not be included in the assessor's reported square footage. Some assessors report only the footprint, and you have to apply a multiplier to get the true total, i.e. a 2-story house with equal lower and upper levels, which containing 1,000 square feet would be reported as 1,000 square feet based on the footprint, and a multiplier of 2 is applied. This is why Zillow is so bad. This is why tax records are bad. This is why it's so important to double, triple check your data with CompFlow or calling agents or calling builders to double check everything, because tax assessors are wrong. How do you determine value on an all cash? Oh, we already did that. This right here is taking a look at, we're going back to the search criteria, and we're looking at some of the things that we would click in FMLS, using FMLS to pull our search criteria. And we want to look for actives, under contracts, pendings, and closed sales. Now, when I did my initial search, and we spoke of earlier, I pulled 3 miles out and 1 year back. I did that just to get I think it's important to get an overall look of the overall the market, the big market. Now to to find that a little bit closer, I'll go down to 180 days. Because you want, especially in these markets now, you want the most current sales. So I'll knock that down to 180 days. And what that's going to do is that's going to tighten your funnel up a little bit, and you're going to get fewer hits. So now you might be dealing with, say, 40. But as you can see, we don't like total bedrooms on property details. Total bedrooms, we haven't messed with that. We're not putting anything in there. We're not putting anything in full baths, and we're not putting anything in square footages. Year built, you can use that 5 to 10 year if needed. And only time I would put the 5 to 10 year in the criteria for the year built is if, even after narrowing down to 180 days and to 1 mile and to all crawl and slabs, I'm still coming up with a large pool. If I want to narrow it down some more, then I might do the 5 or 10 year built criteria. But I will never use square footage or baths or bedrooms. I will use high school. And when I start narrowing down to get it even more defined so we can hand pick them, I will usually put elementary school. My way of thinking and the way I explain it is people find an area in Metro Atlanta they want to live. Mine was Snellville. I found Snellville, and then I started looking at schools. I wanted to live in the Brookwood cluster. I like Brookwood, so I moved in that cluster. Well, then, so that is my micro market, my sub market. So you can actually go even smaller and look at the elementary schools, because within Brookwood you have 4 elementary schools. And so I know I want to Gwen Oaks, me personally. So you do the same for your search, because remember, you're putting yourself in the buyer's shoes. So if your house is in a highly desired elementary school, only look for comparables in that elementary school. But on the same hand, if it's in an elementary school that you know is not as desirable as the one next door to it, don't go next door and elevate your value by using those comps, because it's a different market. It's a total different market. What about actives and pendings? I think somebody just said that. Pending sales can be very, okay, James took care of that one. Actives and pendings. Right now, pendings are extremely important because they're showing the current market. They're showing what people are currently haven't closed yet. Actives, as I said earlier, with everything selling as quickly as it is now, in my mind, if something has been active on the market for over 30 days, it's a great indicator of that's the high point of the market. It's overvalued. So that's what your house is not worth. But on pendings, we at DS Murphy, we have to, it's company policy that we try to use pendings instead of actives. And then we call the agents on those pendings to get the information to see if it's closing, when it's closing, and what it's closing at. So if you get a call from an appraiser, just an appraiser in general, asking you about that, that's what we're doing. We're doing it because we're putting support in our report with that pending listing. So if the listing you have it's pending and it's the list price was $350 and it's closing at $360, if you want to share that with the appraiser, you can, and we can actually put that, if we're using that for comparable, we can put that $360 as a sales price and then put the information in the report that verified by the agent is selling on this date at this price. So that if you're getting calls from appraisers about pending listings, that's why you're getting calls, because that is the best indicator of current market value. There was a question during the break, do all appraisers do that for pending listings? No. As doing rebuttals, we're finding out they're not doing it, and they're not making data sale market adjustments. Before the break, there was a question about how we're making market adjustments. What we're doing is going back to our search criteria we had at the very beginning, or actually what we have now. We look at our neighborhood or 1 year back, and we're looking at our trends. So we're seeing that everything is trending up, and we're breaking that down to a percentage. So just say for easy math, it's 12% increase over the past year. To make our market adjustments, what we're doing is we're dividing that by 12 and then making adjustments. So it'd be a 1% adjustment per month on the contract date of the comparable to the effective date of the subject. So you're comparing, so you're making adjustments, a percentage adjustment from the effective date of your CMA or the effective date of your appraisal to the contract date of the comparables. So if all your comparables, I mean, you want to use the most recent comparables, but if you're using some that are older because you're trying to bracket square footage, or that could be a huge number. I mean, because you're dealing with 1% per month and your contract was 6 months out. So 6 months, that's a 6% adjustment on the sales price of that comparable. That's how we're making market adjustments. So to accurately depict it, like if we're showing that 12-month increase over the past year and we're making a 1% adjustment, when we have all of our comparables lined up and our last comparable says a pending or an active, you should, when we make our adjustments, it should put everything in line. It should bring the older sales up because we're making that market adjustment and bring everything in line with that pending and the most current sale. That's how we know we're doing everything correctly. Hopefully that makes some sort of sense. Eliminate outliers in search results. A lot of the outliers come down to high and low. A lot of the low outliers are the comparables kind of like that are on the power lines or next to the cemetery. There's reasons why they're low or high. It's pretty easily identifiable once you get down to a good, 30 hits, active listings, pendings. Now we're within, we have actives, pendings, and all of our sales are within 180 days. So we're getting a lot more toward the bottom of that funnel. And we start looking at the data. Compare data and search for outliers in any category. Look at exterior photos, examine the room counts and layouts, narrow or widen the search according to results. Personally, when I get down to this part of my appraisal, or for you, the CMA, when I'm starting to handpick my my comparables that I'm going to put my weight on, I want there to be about 15, 20. It's not set in stone, but I like to be about 15 to 20 comparables, because then you can spend time looking at them closer, like this right here. This is 30 hits, and I think you guys have these printouts. There was a link to get the printout, a link for the printouts if you printed them out. But if not, it doesn't matter. We're just going to go over them in class. So right here, can anybody pick out some quick outliers that could be chunked to narrow down the search? Meerkats, price, the $1 million home, correct. $1 million home would get kicked. Yeah. So that's what you're looking for. You're looking for anything in here that that you can kick out early on to narrow down your search. So the $1 million home, I'd say a lot of these 7s, 7-bedroom, 8-bedroom, correct. Y'all are thinking exactly right. For the 2020 right here that you kick out. So you can go through, and what I like to do in FMLS is I will line them all up. I'll filter them, or not filter, but categorize them in sales price. So it's easy to find the highs and the lows and kick out the highs and lows. And then if I still have a big pull, I need to narrow it down more. I might do year built, and not by criteria, but by filtering it and put them in high to low. And then you kick out your outliers that way. It makes it a little easier to look at visually, and then kick out your outliers. So we kick out some outliers, and now we end up with this right here. It's a lot more manageable. So we still have, at this point, this is when I would start looking at the agent full reports and looking at the photos, especially just the exterior of the photo. If it's questionable, I'll go in and look at the interior photos So this is a manageable number where you can actually do that. So now we are down to seven properties. These 7 properties are easier to drive if we're going to drive all of them. Go through and look at the interior photos, look at the remarks, and see how tight the price range on this one's ranging $325 to 400, $3,999. So pretty tight range on sales prices. You got 1, 2, 3, 4 actives and 3 closed. So we're looking pretty good on our criteria, and now we can start actually looking at the remarks in the photos. You want to take a break? Price difference, especially the price range. Let's take a break. And then we can come back at 1:10 and finish up the class. So I will see you guys back at 1:10. All right, let's get going here. Well, if I can get my, there we go.
I had hijacked your screen, John.
No, yeah, I was gonna leave that up there and see if anybody had any questions. That looks like a wonderful class. And if no one's attended one of those classes, I've taught a few of them. And what it is you'll have appraisers and inspectors there. We split up the class into two classes. So it's a group of 60, so it'll be 30 in a group. And what you get to do is you get to walk around with an appraiser doing the actual inspection of the house. So you see how we measure, see what we look at, ask us questions, that type of scenario. And then you do that half of this time. And then the other half of the time, you walk around with one of our home inspectors and do the exact same thing. See what the home inspector is looking at, pick his brain, ask questions, It's a great experience to see what we look at, what we look for, and to get a preview of this house, actually.
Kelly, I'm not sure exactly where it's at, what the name of the development is, but it's in Swanee, and I think Jim Shue had a drop off, but Susan
No,
Lombard.
I'm here, Maple. It's in Grand Cascades
There you go. Thank you.
in
For
Forsyth
jumping in.
County. It's simply in Swanee from the city perspective. Hope that helps.
Yes, I know it's in Forsyth. It's like right over the line. Yes.
Cool. That's a fun time to be had.
And it's a real treat right now because we haven't been able to hold these classes. One, because we have COVID going on, and then this crazy market. All of a sudden now we just can't no one can hold on to a property long enough for us to organize a field trip class. But this home here, the painters came and the carpet's getting installed on the 8th. We're going to go through it on the 9th, and it hits the market on the 10th.
Sounds like a wonderful time.
All right. John, you're more than welcome to take the screen back at any time and kick me off.
All right, there you go. Can y'all see my screen? No, you're looking at me. That's all you're looking at. Let's see how. There we go. We had question during the break. We had a question about the basement scenario, and for me to explain it in layman's terms, I get it. I apologize. I talk fast and then I assume things, so I apologize. What I was saying was, in basements, first of all, you need to start with the gross living area. Because if you want to figure out like an adjustment for a gross living area, there's no rhyme or reason. There's no like set number. That's why I always say it takes a long time to get comfortable doing it. It's derived by what the market's willing to pay for it. It's what the willing buyer is willing to pay for the difference in square footage, since we're dealing with square footage. But with square footage being the biggest swing one way or the other for the value, a good way to start or a good way to begin getting an adjustment value is take the predominant value for that market, for that neighborhood. So maybe take 4 or 5 comparable properties that you deem truly comparable, and pull the predominant per square foot value out of that. Divide the gross living area by the price and get your per square foot price there. Come up with the predominant value for those 4 or 5 homes, divide that by 3. So in a great scenario, it would be, if your predominant value is $120 a square foot, you would divide that by 3 to come up with $40. And that would be your adjustment. That would be a starting point, a good just good place to start, a $40 adjustment for square footage. And then if you want to go further, you can take that same predominant value, that $120, divide that by 2 and get 60. So you're going to adjust somewhere between $40 and $60 on that house for square footage. So take the predominant value for that type market, divide by 3 to get your low number, your low adjustment number, and then divide by 2 to get your high adjustment number. And that's just a good starting place. That is not set in stone. That's just a good starting point to start making adjustments. With that said, when you go into basements that are true basements, drop ceilings, nothing wrong with it, just a lower end type basement, you might adjust that finished portion at maybe half of that. So if you're adjusting, if you did your predominant math and you're adjusting at $50 a square foot gross living area, you've made your adjustments on gross above grade gross living area, everything is adjusting out correctly, your highs are going, you know, your larger homes are coming down, your smaller homes are coming up, everything's going in line. So you know you're making good adjustments. It's safe to say take maybe half of that, to take maybe, you know, $20, $25 to adjust your basement. And that'd be a good starting point for making your basement adjustments. Hopefully that straightens up a little bit of that. Adjustments are extremely tough, extremely tough. And for unfinished, I'm sorry. So if I was doing, say, $20 a square foot for finished portions, what I would do is if I had a 2,000 square foot basement, so I had just say a rectangle, 2,000 square foot, and it was half finished, I would do, you could do it all different ways, but I would probably do $5 a square foot for the entire basement. And I'm trying to get to $20 a square foot. So I would do $5 a square foot for the entire 2,000 square feet. And then for the 1,000 square feet that's finished, a whole nother line adjustment would be at $15 a square foot. That's getting you to that $20 a square foot. So you do $5 a square foot for the entire basement, and then 15 for the finished portion, actually making that $20 because it's 15 and 5 for the basement adjustments. Hopefully that helps a little bit. That's a good guideline just to start you off with. But getting back into our slides here, we have now narrowed it down to a nice little 7 numbers. So let's go back to the, if I can get back here, back to our subject property just to refresh our minds. Typical house, nicely kept, screen porch, fireplace, you know, everything we've gone over. So now let's look at the exterior of the pending sales. Which property or properties would you eliminate right off the bat just by looking at them? C. Which properties would you, A and C? I like that. Yep. Which properties would you keep? And that'd be B, process of elimination. I 100% agree. It's more similar to, you got a front porch, you got siding, front garage. Definitely. I definitely would keep B as my, my predominant pending listing. And then for the closed sales, just looking at the exterior photos, which properties or properties would you eliminate? C. C is a weird house to start with. That'd be a hard one to sell, I would think. I totally agree. Get rid of C, keep A and B, 100%. And now you're sitting at, now if you keep those 2 sales and you keep the pending, you have a good three comparables, and we'll get back on that in a second. But so at this point, you're sitting at 3 or 4 comparables, sales and pendings or listings. Okay. This is when you want to drive them. And I'm not going to speak any more about it because we've talked about it enough. But this is when you want to print out on paper or make notes or whatever you want to do for each one of those sales. Go drive them. And then as you're driving them, you know, stop in front or drive slowly or drive by multiple times and make notes on, oh yeah, it does, it backs up the power lines, or wow, look good in the photo, but it doesn't look quite as good in person. Make notes on every one of these cells that you're driving from the exterior. And then you have a better analysis. When you get back to your office and it's time to start actually conducting the CMA or the appraisal, that's when you can start using interior photos of the FMLS. We love interior photos. The more interior photos you can put in there, the better off you are. But be realistic. If it's got a funky layout in the bathroom or it's really tight or something, don't try to make it what it's not, because that potential buyer is going to see it regardless anyway. So that's my thought process. Don't, try to portray the house as it is. Don't try to fluff it up more than needs be, that when people get there, they're gonna be like, whoa, that's not the same house. Review the photos closely and compare the home to your subject property. Look for the comparables which most closely resemble your property. This is when you're looking at interior features. So for this house, you're looking for homes that have been updated. The key thing is, a lot of people, they get stuck on trying to find exact same homes, like 4 exact same homes. You can't do it. It's almost impossible. So like in this scenario, there might be the perfect comp that has a brick front where we're all siding, but the interior photos are almost identical. I mean, as far as the rehab is very similar, and you can't find any other siding sales that have been rehabbed. It's not against the rules. It's not, I'm sorry, I got stuck on the chat. It's not against the rules or anything to use that brick front home that's been renovated similar to the subject, because you can't find any other homes that are with siding that are similar. You're not going to find 4 perfect comps. So you want to at least find comps, one comp to bracket the exterior of the home, one to bracket like the screen porch, one to bracket the rehab portion of the home. And if you do that, when you start making adjustments, everything will come in line, and that's how you can get your value. Do not eliminate too many until you've cross-referenced other sources. Don't kick out, and what that's saying is don't rely, especially with basement homes, don't rely solely on the square footage that is in FMLS, because a lot of times they're rolling the finished portion of the basement into the gross living area. You want to break all that out. You want to be able to compare apples to apples. That's not meaning every home's got to be similar, but if you're breaking out your apples to apples, meaning if you're breaking out your basement from your gross living area like you're supposed to, you want to make sure all your comparables are doing the same thing. That's the only way to make accurate adjustments. So now we're ending up with actually 5 sales, 1 pending and 4 closed sales. So we have this is when you would print out, I would print out the agent full report on these and drive by and make my notes on these sales. Pretty tight range here of prices. You got 290,000 to 335,000. So pretty tight. Should be pretty good set of comparables. Maple, are you going to work on this? Are you there? This is a little section that she usually jumps in and does. I've only taught this class.
The next screen, I put in the finished grid for you.
Oh, thank you. Okay. I haven't.
That way, because everything going on today. Yeah.
Okay, that's totally fine. Not a problem.
Oh no, you're still quite a few slides back. Because the finished grid comes in after, it comes in around slide number 76 or something around there.
Oh, okay. So
you are approaching break 2 on the next slide.
Okay, the break. Okay, I see what you're saying. Okay, so I was behind. I got you.
Yes.
So this is the,
It's a wee bit.
I see what you're saying. When I saw this grid, and I apologize people for us talking, I thought this was the beginning of that grid. This is that grid that, I don't know, some of you guys may have downloaded, some of you guys may have printed. If you don't have it, it's fine. We're going to go over it in class, but you can always print it for your use later if you like it. So if you were to pull a sample with those four sales and one listing, you could pull a quick CMA just to see what your numbers are looking like. This would be what you could come up with. You got 4 3-bedroom homes, full baths, all 2s. So these are some really good comparables, and you can get your average numbers here: 314, 740. Good indicator of value right there. That's not saying that's not where we stop though. That's not, we haven't made any adjustments, and that we haven't put weight on any of those comparables. Okay, we're not going to do the 10 minutes to do this on our own. We're just going to work through it as in the class here. So here we go. Looking at interior, this is the interior photos of comparable 1, the very first one. So in chat, is that pretty similar to the subject?
So in the chat, the web data source is, so normally, people would be able to have a chance to go through it on their own. And
Yeah.
It has all the pictures that are just larger. So they can really see the subject. They can really see all the comparable properties, where they can see like that stipple ceiling and things just kind of show up a little bit more. It's just bigger pictures.
Gotcha. So if y'all want to click on that link and see the bigger pictures, you can. But in this comparable one, what I'm seeing is it's been updated. The kitchen's been updated, and the bathrooms have not. It's got some flooring. It looks to me that the flooring's been updated in the master bath. But that's about the extent of it. So this one could use ceiling as popcorn. Exactly. Is popcorn ceiling, is that desirable? That's a good point. Do people like popcorn ceiling? No. Comparable 1 could use, it's going to be a little, in my opinion, it's going to be a little inferior. It does not have the same number of upgrades. It looks like it has the original appliances, painted cabinets, granite countertops, but it could use a little more. So it's going to require a mont. You're correct. That is going to require a positive adjustment for in the grid, in our grid, because that home is inferior to the subject, so it's going to require a positive condition adjustment or quality adjustment. This home, looking at comparable number 2 interior photos, it's been updated, looks like similar. It's freshly painted, looks like it's got some new floors, cabinets and kitchen looks pretty similar. It's kind of a little bit smaller, but looks pretty similar to the subject's kitchen. But once again, the bathrooms could use some work. So I would think that one's going to require, once again, a positive condition adjustment in the grid. Comp 3 interior photos. Looks like a good comparable to me. Master bath has been recently updated, superior to the subject. The other bath looks like it was updated. Looks like it, other than the colors of the house, holy purple. Other than the colors, I would say the overall condition, quality of the house is similar to the subject, maybe a little superior, because the master bath is what I'm thinking. But then on the other hand, the color of the paint kind of offsets that a little bit. Is this how you got, when y'all are pulling CMAs, do y'all dig through the interior photos and make adjustments for condition and quality? And oh yes. Comparable number 4, interior and outdoor spaces. Once again, this has been updated a little. The kitchen is a lot more similar to the subject. Fresh paint, fresh floors, master bath looks a little superior. So that's a good looking comparable there. But the outdoor space, all you have is that uncovered patio there, so you don't have that screened porch. Let's see, comparable number 5, interior photos. Wow, they've done some updating on that one. What do y'all think? Is that an inferior or superior home to the subject? Superior, superior, superior. So what you're seeing here is another great example of bracketing for the condition and quality of the home. You're not looking for all homes that look like this, because then you would be inflating value, potentially inflating value. You're looking for homes on both sides. And as you can see, it's pretty hard to find a home exactly like the subject with everything updated except for the master bath. So you look for all different scenarios and you make adjustments accordingly. But I agree, this house is a little superior to the subject. Comparable properties. What do you notice? What do you notice first on the comparables map? Subject is right here in green. So what I'm noticing is the same. They're all in the same subdivision. They're great comparables. But go a little bit further, you have the subject in a cul-de-sac here. You have comp 2 in a cul-de-sac. It's at the front of the subdivision. You have comparable 3 in a cul-de-sac. So those would be really good comparables. Comparable 1, if it's located, it'd be in a cul-de-sac. Now comparable number 5, it might be like you might see that the sales price is a little bit lower because it's on the main road of the neighborhood. So all these can affect value, and this is how you look to see. Yeah, C3 backs up, comparable 3 backs up to the major road. If there's no, a Magnolia Parkway, it appears it's probably a pretty good sized road. If there's no buffer there, that could be a big influence. If there's a big buffer, a big fence there, maybe it doesn't influence it at all. But this is, if you've made your adjustments for like gross living area and bathrooms and stuff like that, and you still have some highs and lows, looking at this map, can point out external influence, it being in the cul-de-sac or not. Comparable 5 should, in an ideal situation, sell a little bit below comparable, 2 or 1. So I'm trying to get through those adjustments. Adjustments are based on the incremental difference a buyer is willing to pay for the given feature. That is the critical point. Incremental difference, the willing buyer is willing to pay for the difference. Just because they spent 60 grand on the basement and then decided to move doesn't mean that they're gonna get that 60 grand out of it. You get some benefit out of it, you get some added to it, but it won't be close to that. While somewhat rooted in the cost does not always equal value. The key thing to remember is if the comp is superior, like we were just discussing, if the comparable is superior, whatever feature is superior in, you're going to subtract. If the comp is inferior, you're going to add. So if the first few comparables we looked at, they were inferior to the subject in quality condition, so you're going to add value. You're going to add a percentage or a number. And the last comparable we looked at was superior. So you're going to subtract to bring it down in line with the subject. That's just what that is going over as well. It's the same thing going over the subtract, smaller, bigger. This is huge. The best adjustment is a 0. Some features like land, bedroom count, they may be a little bit different. Like it may be 5-bedroom subject and the comparable is a 4. We're not going to adjust for that because there's enough bedrooms and the the gross living area, the GLA is going to pick up the difference in size anyway. So we put a 0 there. A 0 is good. The best adjustment is 0. That means you have comparables that are similar. If you have, you see this a lot in townhomes and condominiums. You'll have comparables that have no adjustments whatsoever, meaning that right there is the perfect comparable. You don't see it very often, but it does come around. Bracketing, I cannot speak enough about bracketing. It is key. Bracketing is key to appraising. Bracketing is key to CMAs, to accurate CMAs. And I'm gonna go over it again. Bracketing is just having comparables on both sides of the spectrum. If you're dealing with a gross living area, as this example here is, subject is 3017. You got comp 1 at 3500. It's larger, so you're gonna have a negative adjustment there. You have comp 3 at 2838. It's smaller, so you're gonna have a positive adjustment. The reason why this is so critical is when you're making your adjustments, when you did your predominant value and you got your range from $20 to $40 a square foot, and you make your adjustments. If you have numbers on both sides of the spectrum, it's going to bring your adjusted values in line. So if you had all larger homes, you could be going either way, because if you made a really high gross living area adjustment, you could be bringing the value down. If you had a very low gross living area adjustment, you'd be inflating the value. So it is critical in every major aspect, being land size. If you're dealing with like a larger parcel, land size, square footage, bedroom and bath count, basements, condition and quality. If you're dealing with a home that is not just in a neighborhood that they're all typical homes, all similar, you have to make sure you have superior and inferior in every one of those aspects. If not, it's easy to inflate or devalue a property. So bracketing is key. Final word about bracketing. This right here is what happens when you do not bracket GLA. The subject property is 2,000 square feet, and they used all larger comparables, and they adjusted at $50 square foot. So it's bringing them all down. This one, you got a negative, I'm sorry. If you adjust at $5 a square foot, this is what I was saying earlier. If you adjust at a lower square footage, it's going to inflate the value because you're not adjusting accordingly. And without the smaller home to bracket the lower side, there's no way of telling you if you're adjusting accordingly within the CMA. So this right here is the comparison grid we looked at first with the comparables that we just looked at the interior photos on. So as you can, let me see, 1 second. So we have double checked, triple checked all our data, and we know, so we feel comfortable with our bedroom count, our bath count, our gross living area. You have to feel very confident in your numbers before you can make adjustments, or once again, you can overstate or devalue property. So this is once we start making the adjustments. And if you remember, comparable 1, we're going to call it was just average. It was inferior. So we made a $20,000 condition adjustment. And the question is going to be, how do we come up with that $20,000? I typically, what I do is I make percentage, and I'm sorry, there was a question earlier about do we make percentage adjustments or dollar adjustments? We make both for gross living area, and we make straight up dollar adjustments because it's dollar per square foot, and bedroom counts are usually dollars. In other aspects, stuff that are subjective, like view, if you're on a lake or location or a gated community, or if you're dealing with condition or quality, things that are more subjective, things that we have to dive in and find other comparables to make the adjustments so we can justify our adjustments. Then I'll make percentage adjustments. And then you go into detail with that is like a lake house. If trying to find out how much to adjust that lake house for, like we talked about earlier, I would find lake houses that sold within a time period, and then homes that are in the same market that's sold off the lake that are very similar within the same time period, and find the percentage difference. And that's the easiest way to be able to justify what you're doing. And you can do the same thing with quality and condition. You can find comparables that are updated similar to yours, and then comparables that are not. And if everything else is pretty equal, then you can find the percentage difference once again and use that percentage to make your adjustments. I feel that the percentage adjustments are easily are more justifiable. But going back to this grid, comparable one was inferior, so we made a $20,000 positive adjustment. Remember, because it's inferior, so we're making a positive adjustment. And then we didn't have the screen porch. All we had was the stoop and the patio. So there's a $12,000 adjustment, $12,500 for the lack of the deck and screen porch. And what the key here is when you're making your adjustments is you're making them apples to apples. If you're making comparable one a $20,000 condition adjustment because it was inferior, if you remember comparable two, it was pretty similar in configure. It was pretty similar as far as being inferior to the subject. You're making the same adjustment. Same with the screen porches, the patios, and stoops. If we're saying we're making a $12,500 adjustment, positive adjustment for the lack of the deck and the screen porch and the porch, we do the same with all of our comparables, and we do them all the way. We call it across the board. We make the same adjustments, and when in doing so, that's how when you're making your adjustments, the adjusted values go up and down, and the end result, the adjusted values at the bottom of the page there. If I can get my cursor over here, the adjusted values here are what we're looking at when we're making adjustments. You want those you want those adjusted values to be as tight as you can get them. 10% is like the high point. You want your high and low numbers to be closer, more like, under 5% difference. That's when you've got good adjustments, you got good comparables, and you can feel strong in setting your value. If you have a bunch of comps that range from say 312, 900 to 475, you got bad comparables. Or if you had to use comparables for certain aspects to bracket things, your adjustments are incorrect. They're either too high or too low. So at the end of the day, you want to look at how tight the adjusted range is, and you want it as tight as possible. So in this scenario here, what value, if this was the completed, we made all of our chili. We made all of our adjustments. We feel good with our range here. What value would you put on this house if you guys had to list this house? Crickets. Kelly raised the hand. What you got? I've never actually
So I was going to ask. I'm not following how you make the adjustments. You know that one has a deck or patio, covered porch, and one doesn't. How do you know how much of the adjustment is from that versus the better finishes in the kitchen and bathrooms versus hardwood floors versus carpet? How do you assign values to those conditions when there's multiple factors?
The Fannie Mae made the form according to the most critical, the most important factors of value, and being at the top of the form, it's the date of sale time. So market adjustments are up there pretty high. So with that being said, like condition and quality, those you make those adjustments and get those adjustments in line before, like the patio and deck adjustments. Those are smaller adjustments that you do at the end. Once you feel good about your adjustments for condition, quality, square footage, all that kind of stuff, then you can do your smaller adjustments for your patios and porches. And as long as you keep, if you're just say you're adjusting, say 6,000, 7,000 for the screen porch. As long as you do that on each one of them. So like on comp one, you'd be adjusting for the difference in screen porch, for the difference in the deck, and the difference in the porch. So essentially you have to set value. You have to say, okay, I'm giving 7,000 for the screen porch. I'm giving 3,000 for the deck, and I'm giving 3,000 for the porch. And a stoop gets 1,500, a patio. So it gets very in depth, and there's really no other way to do it accurately. That's really the only way to do it accurately, because, and I know I probably lost all y'all, and I apologize. There's really no easier way to do it, but you have to set values for all those amenities. And then when you make all your adjustments across the board equal, and all of them are the same for the amenities, once again, you'll see the adjusted values going up and down, and you'll know if you're going in the right direction or not. You'll know if your adjusted values are getting tighter, you're making good adjustments. If your adjusted values are getting further apart, your adjustments are off, and you got to go back and look at your adjustments to see if you're adjusting too much for your screen porch, or if you're adjusting. And it takes time. It takes looking at each comparable individually. It takes a lot of practice, a lot of patience, actually, doing that. That's the only way that that you can do it and feel confident in your adjustments, and then be able to tell your client how you made the, I gave this much for the screen porches, I gave this much for the porch, I gave this much for the deck, and this is how we derived this number. So you can always back into what you're doing. I know that's not the perfect answer, and I apologize, but that's the way we do it, pretty much. Hopefully that helped a little bit. Let's see, 320, 320, 310, 315, 317, 320. On this one right here, and I'm considering today's market, which we know everybody, if it's listed at 320, it's going to sell at 560, right? Now, if it's listed at 320, it's going to, it's a tight market right now. So this one right here, I would say I would put a value of $320,000 on it. And the reason why I would do that is because I have a high adjusted value at 322.5, and then the next value is 320. So I have two sales that support. I have two sold comparables that support that $320,000, and that's why I would call it 320. In today's market, you might want to you probably want to list it a little higher. Probably I would go higher, because everybody's going to want to try to go down a little bit. But hopefully that helped a little bit. I do apologize for the lack of adjustments there. Let's see here. This goes into our rebuttal. Somebody asked earlier about did we win that rebuttal, because I kept referring back to rebuttal, and we end up, I don't know what the exact number is, but last time I saw it, it was like 97, 98% of the rebuttals we submit, we win. It may not make total value, but we at least get an increase in value. And if y'all don't know, I'm sure they've talked about it in other classes. If we do the consultation appraisal, the rebuttal is free, but a lot of times people will not do the consultation appraisal, and at that point the rebuttal is $650. That's because it's a tight time frame, tight turn time. And because we have to do 2 assignments, we have to actually do the appraisal and then review the bank appraiser's appraisal. So it's a lot of work. But after we do all that, we then write up an official letter of rebuttal, and pretty much pick out all the flaws in the bank appraisal and kind of try to justify why we're right and they're wrong. It's pretty much what we're doing. But we got pretty good success with it. Some lenders won't even look at them, but it's their right to do what, to look at them or not. But it's important to remember that you only have one chance at a rebuttal, and it's got to be right, because they're going to look at it one time. And if it's just, oh, he didn't make the right condition adjustment, or oh, he adjusted too low for square footage or whatever, that's very subjective. It's got to be concrete evidence. The subjective stuff's not going to fly. It's not going to pass through. Most lenders have a required form you must use. So if you get a low bank appraisal, if you don't call us, just know that each bank has a different criteria. So you'd want to go to the loan officer and find out what you need to do to get the correct forms, or the correct way to submit it, because you only get that one chance. Most likely additional comps will be required. Hopefully, if you're trying to get a higher value, you have better comps and you can justify why your comparables are better than the ones that were used. And needing less adjustments or whatever, more recent, that type scenario. And then you can supply them with the new comparables. Make sure the data is accurate. Must use reliable sources. So once again, and we can't say that enough, is whatever data you're using, you're basing your value off of, being a rebuttal or doing a CMA. Take the time to second and third check all your data sources, your gross living area, your bedroom counts, your basement, all the critical points that you might make adjustments on. Make sure those are accurate, because if those are not accurate, you're throwing your numbers way off, and you might submit comparables and say, oh, these are better comparables, but they're actually like 1,000, 1,500 square feet bigger because you used the wrong square footage or whatever. I can do a CMA now. How's pre-listing appraisal? Do y'all feel like y'all learned anything about CMAs? Do y'all feel any more confident doing CMAs? And then how is a pre-listing appraisal different? Good question. Consultation, I know y'all have already gone over this, but consultation appraisals, I think they're critical on a lot of these properties that are not in developments, not our cookie cutters, not our, because it's got to be put on the market, especially everything going so quickly now. It's got to go on the market at the correct price to get it out there. And then with the low bank appraisals, having us to do the rebuttal for free is just key. It's a time saver. It's you won't have the headaches of doing it. We take it over for you. But do y'all have any questions, or you can ask and unmute. You can unmute yourself, or I can unmute you, or you can do it on chat, or. I just realized, I was like, man, nobody's talking, nobody's chatting with me. My chat was stuck at the top. I apologize. There might be a few. How much is I apologize, guys. I was sitting there going, man, it's crickets. Nobody's talking. I've lost everybody. How do you? We're not able to unmute. Okay. Raise your hand and I'll unmute you if you want. If you have a question. That is the golden ticket. That is the $1 million question. How to determine exact value amounts for adjustments. And I know it sounds like I'm trying to get around the question or the answer, but that's actually how we do it. It's the way I've explained. We do the predominant value and divide by 3, then divide by 2 to get a range. And that is that's how we start. The critical point about making adjustments. The most critical point, and I've said it over and over and over, is bracketing. If you have everything bracketed correctly, and you're dealing with a house that's say $300,000 or whatever, and you're making say $40, $50, $60 a square foot gross living area adjustments, the way to know you're doing it correctly is you're looking at your adjusted values, and they're coming in line. Instead of spreading apart, they're coming in line. That's how you know that you're making good adjustments. Because if you go too high, they're gonna go further apart. If you go too low, they're gonna go further apart. And there's a middle point that you'll know when you hit it, when you're looking at your values. It takes time. It takes looking at the adjusted values and just making those adjustments is all it's really the only way you can do it. In the old days, we visited our, I'm trying to see if I think